Greetings, Western States Honor Orchestra musicians. Welcome to So You Can Play. Now what? Entrepreneurial skills to help build your music career. I'm Dr. Sarah Off, and I teach music business and violin at the University of Northern Colorado. And my aim today is to talk to you all about entrepreneurial skills. No surprise, it's in the title, so if you're surprised by that, I don't know what to tell you. But we're here to talk about how to help build your music career through those skills, getting more gigs, knowing how to network, and a lot of other cool stuff. So let's begin. The first thing I wanted to discover with you is how to build a foundation. So when you're talking about entrepreneurship, it's not just about, oh, I'm going to send out this many emails, I'm going to have this social media account with this many likes. You have to start even further back from there. So the first thing to discuss is vision. And vision is something that you can talk about in terms of your personal values and what you hope to do with your life. Now, that can feel kind of broad and a little bit scary. So this is something you're going to come back to and revisit throughout your entire career. But a question that can help you begin with this is, my vision is to fill in the blank by fill in the blank, which will result in fill in the blank. Now, if you're confused, let me give you an example. So, my vision is to play music for people who love it, right? By playing music in areas filled with people, which will result in people hearing my music. Okay, that seems kind of silly. Let's try something a little more specific, all right? What about, my vision is to provide music education and performance opportunities to students in rural communities. Cool. By starting a music school in those communities that works year-round to provide those opportunities, which will result in those students having access to that kind of education. Cool, that's a little bit more specific, right? What you can do with this is you can take it as a personal kind of vision or a professional one, or you can combine the two together. So after we talk about this entire set of topics, go ahead and pause the video and give this a shot yourself. The second thing that you want to talk about and think about is identity and brand. So identity and brand, those can be essentially first started out by asking yourself these questions. First of all, what do you value? That's a pretty broad question, so you can think about this as a personal thing, maybe musically, stuff that you enjoy doing. What do you value in life? The second question you can ask is, how do you describe yourself? That's a pretty easy one, right? The third one, how do others describe you? This might be a little trickier. It depends on who you're asking, right? So I would suggest ask your close friends, ask your teachers, ask your parents or guardians or people that you know in your life to describe you. What are you good at? You're all very good at something. You're in this class. So I'd guess probably music is one of those things, right? But when you're thinking about music, what specifically in music are you good at? What instrument? What genre? What style? What impact do you want to have? So sometimes we get really, really involved in the creative aspects of music, right? Or we get really, really involved in learning to play perfectly in tune, or, oh, I want to play perfectly with the metronome and I want to nail this performance. But don't forget, you're always having an impact, right? So kind of rediscover that with yourself. Why is music important to you? What impact do you feel like it has on people that take part in it or listen to you play, all right? That can be a really insightful question to explore. And then finally, what do you enjoy doing? We all want to do things we enjoy. Once you've asked yourself all of these, you can start to figure out kind of a professional and or personal identity, and they often overlap, right? They're not necessarily separate. In terms of branding, that's a very businessy way of saying, this is how I essentially portray myself in a professional context. That's sort of your brand, right? So if you think of it in terms of a business, let's say Target. As soon as I say Target, you all know what I'm talking about. You see the logo and you think red and white and oh, it's a store with all this stuff that I can buy. You kind of know their brand, right? But we can do that as musicians too. For example, if I say Lady Gaga, you all know who that is. She has a very specific identity, right? These questions can help you start to build that as a musician. Okay, the next thing that we want to talk about is messaging. And this is basically, how do you take your vision and your identity or brand and get it out to other people, right? Messaging. And the first thing to do is to understand your audience. So if my goal in my vision is to reach rural community students with music, then my audience is those people, right? If my goal is to play classical cello for as many people as I possibly can, right? That's a very different kind of audience. Okay, so understand your audience and where they consume their music, where they gather their information, what places they spend their time, who do they talk to, what do they read, right? Know your competition and the industry. I'm not going to lie to you, music is really competitive. We all know this, right? So know who else is out there, know what they're doing. Are people following them? Are they doing something really edgy and unique? Do they have a really specific identity? And how do you stand out yourself? What's your identity? How are you messaging that? And then know the industry. How has the industry changed? What things are really popular right now? What types of platforms can you use to get your music out there? Knowing that can be really helpful. And then finally, always throughout this entire process, check back to your vision and back to your identity to make sure that you're being true to yourself. Remember, messaging can be anything. I think most of the time when I say messaging, most people think, oh, you're talking about like posters and social media posts and email blasts, right? Messaging, text messaging. That's not necessarily true. Messaging can be as simple as you walking into a room and greeting someone. It can be as simple as your persona when you walk on stage. It can be as simple as you walk into a recording studio and you're really tired and a little cranky and kind of hangry. Well, you might have an attitude that sends a message, and that actually affects your identity and your brand and your perceived professionalism, right? So messaging can be anything. Be really careful with it. Okay. Next thing on our list, and I'm going to be moving through some stuff really quickly, so just a little caveat here. If you have questions or you want me to expand on any of this stuff, please let me know. We'll have a question and answer session at the end. I'm happy to talk about this at great length. It's one of my favorite things. And if you're not able to ask that question this time around, please reach out via email or phone, and I'd be happy to talk to you then as well. Okay, so developing an entrepreneurial mindset to increase opportunity. So I'm going to show you something. Let's see. This computer right here, this one that I'm using, right? I made this computer. I didn't make this computer. It's not true. I didn't make this computer, but we're going to pretend I did. So this computer is a game changer. It's the most amazing computer ever created. It got all of this new stuff, all these new fandangled, things and bits and bobs and stuff. Can you tell I'm a techie? I'm not. And you can personalize it. There's nothing else like it in the entire industry. It is really, really, really super special. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it here on this music stand, and I'm going to leave. And by the time I get back tomorrow, there will be a line of customers out my door, right? Cool, bye. Just kidding. That doesn't make any sense. Why? Well, you're probably thinking, you didn't tell anyone about it. Yeah, that's obvious, isn't it? But we do this all the time as musicians. We go to the practice room and we go to our lessons and we go to classes and we go to rehearsals and we work really, really, really hard on our craft and we become the best we can possibly be. And that's so, so important. But if no one knows about you, it doesn't actually matter because no one knows about you, right? It might be personally very fulfilling. And it might be something that really does hold value and matters, but you're not going to have opportunities and gigs if no one knows you exist, right? So you need to seek opportunity actively. Train yourself to seek and notice opportunity. Don't wait for it to come to you because it won't happen, okay? And that can be anything. Checking back to your vision and your identity and your messaging can help with this because it can tell you where you should look for opportunity. For example, if I'm a cellist and I really enjoy playing music by Brahms, okay, I'm probably not going to seek opportunity necessarily in an underground punk rock club, right? Unless I'm doing like a punk rock version of Brahms, which now that I say that could be really cool. There, take that idea and run with it. But do you see what I mean? It kind of helps me figure out where to look for those opportunities. So that's the first thing. Second thing is be proactive. Reach out, make connections, talk to people, move forward on your own accord. Don't wait for people to come to you. This is right hand in hand with seeking opportunity. You have to be proactive about it. Next is keep track of opportunities, organizations, people, and ideas, because you're going to see and learn about a lot of different things, and you're probably going to forget about most of it. So what I do is I actually have a running list, 2 running lists. I have a notebook that I carry with me, and I will just jot things down that I notice, or people's names and phone numbers, or I have a little pocket for business cards, right? Or I have a file on my computer, and I do the same thing, right? And then when I am looking for something specific, I can flip back through all of that and see what I've written down in the past. So keep track. And then finally, honest and consistent self-assessment. Again, it's really important for you to seek opportunity and to be proactive and to keep track, but you have to have something to offer. So talking about this stuff doesn't mean that you should stop working on keeping your craft really, 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 really high level. That's the whole point, right? So honest and consistent self-assessment, both as a musician and a person, but also as an entrepreneur, is going to be really important. Figuring out what things you're good at, what things you're not, where you need to improve. That's going to help you continue to move forward. Okay. So the next thing I want to talk about is networking. And the reason I'm putting that here is because when you're looking for opportunity and you're being proactive, probably what will happen is you're going to have interactions with people. For example, if I'm looking to play Brahms in a venue, most likely someone runs that venue, right? Or a concert series that takes place there. I'm going to be interacting with people all the time, okay? As soon as I say networking, most people go, ooh, I don't want to do that. I don't like networking. That sounds scary, right? I kind of get a picture in my mind of walking into a room at a conference full of people and I don't know anyone and I'm all by myself. And it's like, oh, they're all here, but how do I even start a conversation? I don't even know where to begin, right? That can be a little bit scary. So I'm going to help give you a little bit of an introduction to get you started. Something you can do is take your vision that we first worked on, plus your goals that you might have, plus skills that you have, put them all together, and then try introducing yourself to someone else in 1 minute or less, using these things and answering the following questions. First, what is my vision? What do I want to do, right? What are my goals? What do I do that I'm good at? And why is it important? That last question is the most important one in a lot of ways, because I can go up to someone and say, hi, I'm Sarah Off. I'm a really good violinist. My goals are to be a better violinist and perform for millions of people. And let's see here. And I'm really good at it. That's not very effective, is it? Because probably people will say, cool, you're also really arrogant and kind of weird. Please get away from me. So we don't want to do that. We want to have some kind of human connection there, and we want them to feel like knowing us will be a good thing for everyone, right? That they have a reason to want to know us. It's important to them just as it is to us, okay? So take that as a starting point, as an introduction for yourself, right? And then go from there and do things like ask questions. Normally, when I go up to somebody and I introduce myself, they're going to then introduce themselves. And they'll probably not just say their name. Most likely, they'll tell me a little bit about who they are, what they do. As soon as that happens, the next step is for you to ask a question. Doesn't have to be a fancy one. Doesn't have to be anything life-changing. Just take the information they gave you and ask a question. Why? Because people like to talk about themselves, right? We like when people are interested in who we are. We feel valued by that. There's a connector there. That is how networking works. So all you need is a personal introduction and then ask a question. And from there, things get a lot easier. So networking is not as scary as it seems. The last thing I'm going to say is practice. That shouldn't be an unfamiliar word to any of you because we do it all the time with our instruments, right? But networking takes practice. So you have to make sure that you're doing it consistently. If you're thinking, okay, I don't have a lot of time to go out and meet new people, or, oh, I don't know, it's a pandemic, things are a little strange right now. Yeah, I get it. Practice with people you know. You can do kind of a mock networking kind of situation where you meet up with friends and say, hey, let's practice networking, right? Sounds kind of goofy, but it can actually be really useful. Okay. Next, performance opportunities. You're welcome for that cartoon. I think it's funny. If you're not laughing, I'm really sorry, but there it is. All right, performance opportunities. First of all, reputation is everything, everything. If you have a crummy reputation, that's a bad deal because people don't want to hire people with bad reputations, right? So remember, back to messaging, the first thing we talked about, everything you do sends a message, and those messages build on your reputation in either in a negative way or a positive way. So every interaction that you do, every message you send out on email, everything you post on Facebook, every concert you play, everything you do builds on your reputation, okay? That's the first big thing to remember. A couple of other things that are important is first, be versatile. Why? Well, because the more versatile you are, the more things you can do. Now, there is an argument here that, yeah, but you don't want to do everything poorly, right? So there's definitely a fine balance. If you want to specialize in something and be really, really, really good at it, that's awesome. Do that. But also have a couple of other tools in your back pocket, right? So I might specialize in new music. That's fantastic. But I also need to know how to play some other stuff and maybe do things like, I don't know, use computer software or know how to record or be a really good photographer or know how to public speak, right? I need to have other tools. So be versatile. Second, build relationships. This is part of networking. It's not about how many people you meet. It's about how many relationships you create. And this takes time and it takes effort. So actively be building relationships. Through those relationships, you will get opportunity. That's how the music world works. Yeah? Third, collaborate. If you build relationships, you'll be collaborating. And you can collaborate in order to build relationships. Why collaborate though? What if you're a solo act? That's great. Be a solo act. But chances are you're going to build more opportunity if you're working with more people. It's just the way that it works, right? Think of a touring band. You'll often see a touring band go on tour with another touring band, right? Instead of just on their own. There's a very markety, businessy reason for this, and that is, well, if I go on tour with my band and this band goes on tour also, but we go on tour together, then all of their audience and fans come to our show, and all of our audience and fans come to our show. We've doubled our numbers, right? Pretty straightforward. So collaborate. That's one example of how that can be beneficial. Fourthly, not secondly. Ooh, numbers are hard. Be proactive, right? I don't have to go through this again. We've discussed it. You get the idea. Think about creative presentation and context. Okay, creative presentation. That can be literally anything. That can be, I perform wearing top hats. Always. That's my thing. It's part of my brand. Creative presentation. Kind of a silly example, but I wear top hats when I perform. I actually had a friend who was in the Red Shoe Trio. And yes, they all wore red shoes. That was what they were known for, right? Those are silly examples, but you get the idea. Another example might be, well, I'm going to do a full concert of solo violin works. Awesome. Let's see if we can cover more than one thing here. I'm going to collaborate with a dancer, and I'm going to present this in the art alley in Greeley, right? That's both a creative presentation and a creative context, right? So the context being where you are, okay? So be really creative. Think outside the box. Next, don't be a jerk. I know you're all going to laugh at that. It's true, though. How many of you would love to spend hours on end playing gigs with a jerk? No, nobody wants that. That's no fun. So don't be that person. Be kind, be empathetic, be compassionate, be a good person to be around. Support your colleagues, support your friends. Don't be a jerk, right? We get the idea. That reputation can spread really quickly, and it can be very harmful. Because if you're known as being the jerk, then nobody wants to work with you. So keep that in mind. Along those same lines, be reliable and consistent. The other thing I really can't stand, and I'm sure a lot of you can probably relate to this, I don't want to work with someone that I worry whether they're going to show up on time to the gig. That's not a good feeling, right? And I don't want to work with someone that sometimes is really on and can play their music perfectly because they really practiced and they're prepared. And other times you never know. That's not good either. Okay, so be reliable and consistent. And finally, be visible. This goes back to being proactive and seeking opportunities. If people don't know you exist, you're not going to get opportunity. Be visible actively. Promoting yourself is part of the job, okay? All right, so here are some actual active steps you can take to get more gigs. That would be nice, right? Here we go. Develop your product. Think of it, I know that it's like, oh, but it's music, it's not business. They're kind of hand in hand, right? Think of it, just humor me. Think of it for a second as your music, your musicianship, right? The music you're creating is a product, like this computer, okay? And you're wanting to sell it to people, right? Okay, so develop your product. It has to be the highest quality, most solid thing possible, because that's what we want, right? When we consume a product, we want it to be high quality. Determine your audience, right? Who's going to buy it? That way you can target them and make sure they know that you're a thing. It can't be everyone in humanity. That's great. I love that idea. That's not really actually that effective though, because you can't possibly reach every single person on the face of the planet. So try to bring it in a little bit and target your audience a little bit more specifically. Compile your promotional materials. Okay, I can say that, but you might be thinking, what's that mean? Here are a couple examples of that. Things like demos or recordings, right? Video is really nice because we like visual stuff. We're visual creatures, right? So if you have really high quality video, I highly recommend you use that. Audio recordings are also great, right? So that's one thing. Actual demonstrations of your product, okay? Your biography, your bio. Have both a long bio, around 500 plus words, and a short bio, 250, because you never know where that's going to be useful, right? Photographs, people like to know what you look like. So get some headshots done. Your iPhone is really good at this. Just have your friend go click, and then boom, you've probably got a pretty decent headshot, right? There's a lot of free website platforms out there. I highly recommend that you consider making a website. If nothing else, maybe make an artist's Facebook page, some place where people can go to get an idea of who you are, right? This can help create more visibility for you. That's the kind of thing that you're looking at when you're talking about promotional materials. Research your options, meaning research where you might be able to gig. So let's say you're a bass player and you really want to gig and play some jazz, right? Well, then research your area. And I would probably recommend starting geographically locally so that it's a little more accessible to you. If you live in Greeley, type in Greeley Jazz and see what's going on, right? And then keep track. Those are good options to have. Have a sales pitch. Okay, let's reframe that. We're just going to take sales out and we're going to say, have a pitch, meaning how do you tell somebody about yourself and make them care? Right? Make yourself unique. Tell them who you are and what you do and why it matters. So who you are, what you do, why it matters. Go back to your vision, go back to your identity and brand, go back to your messaging. That can help you develop that sales pitch. Make contact. Okay, we've done all these things. Now we want to get the gig. All right, so let's say there's a theater in Greeley called the Moxie Theater, right? And they're a venue. They put on a lot of music events. I want to play there because what they, let's say that what they put on is right in line with what I do. Okay, so I'm going to make contact. Probably what I'll do is I'll reach out to the owner or the person that books gigs, and I'm going to send them my promotional materials, okay? Once you've done that, if you receive a response, be very, very, very proactive about getting back to them, right? If you don't hear anything, follow through. Touch base again and say, hey, did you get my promotional materials? What do you think? Don't be obnoxious, but follow through and go ahead and reach out one more time. If it works out, awesome. The next step is negotiate your price. And I can talk about that all day long. We don't have time today, but if you want help with that, please let me know. I'd be happy to talk about this a little bit more. And then sign a contract. The reason I put that in is because so much gigging is done without any kind of contract. And yes, it's kind of the culture of the gigging life. I would really like it to not be, because I think it's not good for musicians. The amount of times that I've had friends and that I have personally come out on the raw end of the deal because there wasn't a contract, it's way too often. So even if it's just a little wedding or background music at an art gallery, or, something that you feel like, well, it's my best friend who's hiring me, have it on paper, sign a contract. Trust me, you'll thank me later. And then finally, stay in touch during the gig, meaning make sure they know you're coming, make sure you know where you're going, stay in touch, and afterward. Why afterward? It's over with. Why would I care? Like, I did the gig, who cares, right? No, it's really important, because remember, that opportunity, that contact you just made could be a future contact too. I often will give the advice to send thank you notes. Even if someone hires you to do a service of some kind, send a thank you note. Trust me on this. I know it sounds crazy. Just trust me. That will create such a good impression and will increase your visibility and impact your reputation in a very positive way. Trust me, send a thank you note, okay? Now let's back up for a second. What if you make contact, you never hear anything back? It's like, I failed. They don't like me, right? I wasn't good enough. Don't do that. It just wasn't the right fit, or it wasn't the right time. That doesn't mean you failed. It just means try again. Try a different place. Try a different contact. Be creative. You have to keep trying. It's not going to happen overnight. But the good thing is, the more you do this, the more your reputation grows, the more visibility you gain, the more people know you, and the more gigs start to happen. So you have to be patient, but be proactive, reach out, and keep pushing. And most importantly, keep your musicianship at top notch, okay? All right, that's all I got for you. So again, I'm Sarah Off, and I'm the Assistant Professor of Violin and Music Business, in case you didn't catch that at the beginning. There's my contact info. Please reach out if you have any questions at all. I'll also be around for some question and answer after this. And then a small little plug, coming soon, probably the beginning of next semester, we're going to have some mini music business lecture series stuff up online at the UNCO School of Music website. And what that is I'm going to talk for about 10 to 15 minutes about specific music business topics. So if you have a certain topic you want me to talk about, please send me an email and request it, and I'd be happy to add that to my list. All right, next up we have Sally Murphy talking about extended techniques for strings, which sounds like an awesome topic. So go have fun, enjoy, and I hope to see you all soon. Bye.